Hey guys, so if you missed class on Monday, March 18th, or if you just need a refresher on one part of this project, because I know I went on like a huge spiel on Monday, March 18th, this video is for you. So let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, guys. So, we're gonna start at the very beginning. You were assigned a project over a Greek god at the very, very beginning of the year. This is when you like first came in to reading 8, and I told you that your mom or dad was lying to you. This is the project over that Greek god where you got claimed by a Greek god. So you're gonna do a research project over whoever your parent, quote unquote, is. So let's go ahead. We'll go into third hours classroom. It'll look the same for you guys as well. So there is going to be something on Google Classroom titled Greek God Research Project. And when you open this up, it looks kind of overwhelming. There are a bunch of different directions and all these different resources that you could be using. But really all of this is just an explanation about these different resources. So don't let this intimidate you. It's not as challenging as it looks. This is going to be the template where you're making your slides for this. So we've kind of talked about these a little bit at the very beginning of the year, but not a whole lot at this point. So the template asks you some like quick questions about your Greek god, but I'm looking for you to go beyond these questions. I want to see that you've done some pretty thorough research with this. You can jazz these templates up to look however you want, so long as we can read what's on them. That's all I really care about. The other thing that you would have had access to this whole time is the Chronos slide. So if you'll remember at the very beginning of the year, I presented a funky presentation to get us started with Greek mythology and Percy Jackson about Chronos, the Titan who ate his children, then got tricked by Zeus into eating a rock instead of Zeus, and then was defeated by Zeus and all of that whole crazy story. And I gave a quick presentation over the god Chronos. But there is a new slide in this. I didn't put it in at the very beginning of the year because I didn't want to spoil the end of the book. But take a peek at this slide as well. It's kind of an example for how this presentation should run. So you have this to use as an example for you as well. The other pieces of this we'll talk about in just a second. Most of our time is going to be spent in here, this Greek God Research Project explanation slides. So let's go ahead and get that pulled up. So I want to start by just explaining what this project is in the first place. So I will just read it to you. As we've been reading and studying Percy Jackson, we have been learning about the different myths and illusions that go along with the plot of Percy Jackson. This research project is designed to further your knowledge and understanding of mythology and how it plays a part in today's world by having you do your research over your own Greek god. You will give a class presentation that shows your research over your assigned Greek god. So getting started, we pulled up that template. So you're going to start by opening up that template titled Olympian God Presentation Template, and you're going to answer some of those questions. You might have a hard time answering some of those questions at first. If that's the case, it means you need to do a little bit of research. So find an article or two that you trust, and begin kind of learning a little bit more information about your God. My helpful hint to you, if you want this to go a little bit faster, is I would start by reading. I wouldn't start by immediately trying to edit your template with information that you don't know yet. Start by finding an article or two from a trusted source and doing some reading and getting to know your God. It'll save you time in the long run. God and Percy Jackson. This is the part that I told you that we should be looking for as we've been reading. Everyone's gods got mentioned at least one time. Now, some of them are more relevant than others, but your god did get brought up at least one time. So if you saved a spot where your god got brought up or mentioned during Percy Jackson, go ahead and start by typing in that quote into the slide that it belongs in. Quotes should be typed in MLA format, and I have an example of kind of what that looks like down here. Your quote goes in here like this in its quotation marks, surrounded by its quotation marks word for word is how Rick Riordan wrote it. Then you're going to end it with a quotation mark, and you'll end it with some parentheses that say Riordan, the last name of our author, and the page number that you found that quote on. Then wrap it all up with a period, and you have yourself an MLA quote. Someone asked me a really good question today as I was explaining these projects. They asked something along the lines of, my god never spoke in Percy Jackson. That's the case for a lot of you guys. A lot of our gods never spoke in Percy Jackson. They weren't characters. They just They might have gotten brought up, but they never spoke. He was asking, did I need my God to actually say something in order for that quote to work? No. If your God simply got brought up, that's what I'm looking for. Everyone's God's got brought up at least one time. So look for that spot where your God got brought up. If you need to use my books, they're still out while we're working on this. So feel free to grab one during class and try to find your Greek God in it. Okay, overview. So you're going to start with your overview slide. Who is your God? What are they known for? What is their symbol and why is this their symbol? To find their symbol, all you got to do is do a quick Google image search and it'll bring up a bunch of different pictures of that symbol. What other information can you tell me about your God? Show me that you spent some time looking into your God. I want you to find a couple of websites that provide some stories and information about your Greek God. And then I want you to spend some time reading those websites for the best results on this project. And then finally, provide a picture of your God. So all of your gods are fictional. So you're not going to find an actual picture of any of your gods, but find your favorite school appropriate picture representation of your god and go ahead and attach it to your slides as well. What I'm looking for with this isn't necessarily just an answer to all of these questions. It's more, I'm looking that you know your Greek god, you've spent some time researching your Greek god, and you can kind of prove to me that you know this Greek god. So you're going to find some nutty, corny information in there, just because Greek mythology is weird. Tell me some of those fun facts. What kind of interesting information did you learn? Yeah. Okay, so that's the overview. Myth. The myth, I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is probably the harder part of your assignment. So you're going to look up myths about your Greek god and then provide a summary about the myth of your choice. I would recommend choosing a more famous myth over one that's less known, just because it's going to have more sources for you to pull from if you do it that way, but you don't necessarily have to. Warning. Some of the myths you find are going to have details that are probably not considered school appropriate. So, I don't want you to turn in projects that have content that's not appropriate for school in them because you are going to be presenting this in front of the class. So to avoid some of that not so great content, my first piece of advice is to phrase your Google image searches like this. Myths about, insert your god's name here, for students. If you say for students, Google's going to do a better job at kind of filtering out some of that not so okay, not so school appropriate information and giving us a more age appropriate version of the myth. Now, this isn't a 100% foolproof method. The internet is still the internet, and sometimes things can sneak in there. If you find yourself on a website with some not so school appropriate information on it involving your myth and your Greek god, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't use the rest of the information that that website is telling you that is school appropriate, but I'm going to ask you to, as an 8th grader, know the difference between what is okay to talk about in school and what is probably not so okay to talk about, and filter out the information that is not so okay to talk about if you still want to use that source. My warning to you is if you go up in front of your class and you try to present over something that is not school appropriate, I will cut off your presentation as it is. You will sit down and whatever score you get at that point is what you get. This is only the second slide in your entire presentation. So if you do try to present over something inappropriate as like a funny joke or something, you're not going to do very good on this assignment. So please refrain from inappropriate information in your presentations. It won't play out well for you grade-wise. Once you have your myth and you've summarized it and you like have really understood the story, I'm going to ask you a few more follow-up questions. You don't have to answer all 3 of these questions because they're not going to apply to every single person's Greek god and every single person's Greek myth. So did this myth change the way that you viewed your god? Why or why not? Some of you are going to find that your Greek gods were very, could be really mean. Some of you can find that they can be very merciful. Did it change the way that you viewed them? Do you like them? Do you dislike them because of this? Did this myth explain any natural phenomena, such as like weather, tornadoes, earthquakes, thunderstorms? All of that would be considered natural phenomena. Possibly your myth explained like an invention that was made. So like, for example, Poseidon and Athena, they made the chariot together in Percy Jackson. That would be an example of an invention that was explained by a myth. And then was there some type of theme or moral to the story that could be learned from your myth? So we talked about theme right before you guys left for spring break. This is like those life lessons that we could apply to anyone's story. So was there some type of life lesson that could be learned from this myth? And if so, what was that life lesson? Since this is the hardest slide, if you are having some problems coming up with some of this information, uh, or just want to see like an example of someone's from last semester, you are more than welcome to come and pull me aside during our classwork time or during Tiger time and ask me to pull up some of those examples from last semester. I don't want to show them in front of the class because I don't necessarily want like names attached to them, but I'm happy to do some screenshotting for you of what was good and what was bad and kind of show you um this so you can kind of learn from the mistakes of last semester as well. Um so yeah, just get with me if you want to see some of those examples and I'm happy to pull them up for you. That pretty much does it for the myth part of this. God affecting modern day. Has your God influenced modern day languages, cultures, or businesses? And if so, how? So, what I mean by this, you need to only tell me one way that your God has affected modern day. You don't have to go into a whole spiel about all three of these different categories. That's way too much. But for example, maybe you find a business or a charity that's named after your God. Why did they name their business or charity after your God? What does your God have to do with that business or charity? Um, has your God affected modern day language? Uh, so we go over roots and affixes a lot in here. And what I will say about roots and affixes is most of them are derived from two main languages, either Latin or Greek. Um, Roots and affixes that are derived from Greek are typically going to have some influence from mythology in them just because mythology is that old. So there's a chance that a root or an affix or even a whole word might have been influenced based on your God. So do some deep diving into certain words and phrases that it might have been impacted from your God. You only Some of these like modern day influences can be kind of weird too. Like, for example, maybe you find a street sign that is named Athena. You could use that. Maybe there's an elementary school, perhaps one next door, that is named after a Greek god. Well, technically named after a spacecraft, but you get the gist. The spacecraft was named after the Greek god, and why? What was so special about that spacecraft to name it after a Greek god, and ultimately name it our elementary school next door? Uh, but you need one way that your god is affecting modern day, whatever that may be. Um, your Greek god and Percy Jackson, and this is going to continue on the next slide. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. This is the part where, as we've been reading, you should have been taking a mental note or writing down a page number or doing something like that so that you could type in your quote where your god got mentioned in the book. If you didn't, again, not the end of the world. Books are still out. You're more than welcome to grab one and do some digging for your Greek god's name getting mentioned. When you do put it in, just make sure it's MLA, and I already kind of talked about that. This is the new stuff. So my Greek god in Percy Jackson, this is going to continue from the last slide. Was your god relevant or not relevant in Percy Jackson? This is going to go one of two ways for everyone in your class. If you had one of the more relevant gods, such as like um, Athena or Poseidon or Zeus, one of the gods that was like actually a character and a part of the story and like got brought up and like was a major part, um, you're gonna go the first route. So if your god was relevant, what did you think of the way that they were portrayed in Percy Jackson? Was it accurate to what you've learned from the myths and research that you've done for this project? And if so, provide examples. And if it wasn't, again, provide examples. What was not so accurate? Um, Now, the other route to this is if your god was not very relevant in Percy Jackson. If your god was not relevant in Percy Jackson, you get to kind of be creative with this. You're going to create one scenario that Rick Riordan could have used to put your god into the plot a little bit more. So I have some examples listed at the bottom. You don't necessarily have to use one of these examples. I just want to see that you are using your research and adapting it to our fiction Percy Jackson. So some of these examples would be, what would their cabin at Camp Half-Blood look like? Each cabin sort of had a theme based on the Greek god's personality and style and that sort of thing. So what would your Greek god's Half-Blood cabin look like? Maybe how would their Half-Blood children interact? For example, Ares had a bunch of children at Half-Blood Hill that were kind of aggressive because he's the god of war. So if your Greek god had Half-Blood children at Camp Half-Blood, how do you think they would act? What modern day clothing would they wear? So like um all of our Greek gods, none of them were really rocking the togas at this point. They were more dressed in our modern day clothes. So if your Greek god had been in Percy Jackson, what do you think they would dress like? And then how would they talk or interact with humans? Would they be like all high and mighty like Zeus was, or would they be more uh nicer to humans and more respectful of humans? Like maybe someone more like, well, I guess Ares ultimately wasn't, but like maybe someone who would at least talk and work together with the half-bloods. Um, how do you think your god would interact with humans? So you don't have to answer all four of those questions. You just have to answer one way that you think Rick Riordan could have adapted the plot to have your Greek god in it a little bit more. Um, okay. So this is where we get a little bit more nitpicky with the project. So this is the different requirements that are still going to be graded, but they have less to do with like the content. Since this is a research project, we do need to practice citing our sources. So anytime you get information from another source, you need to make sure you have an MLA citation for it, either on that slide or at the very end on a works cited slide. I don't care either way how you do it, so long as you have your works cited somewhere. We have this like great MLA source generator. It's called EasyBib. And I can show you how to use it real fast. Yeah, let me show you EasyBib real fast. So EasyBib, we're gonna start with just having an article, really anything. My last hour, they said they wanted to do theirs over frogs, so we'll do that. Okay, so here is our article. We're gonna cite about frogs. So I'm gonna come into EasyBib. I'll open it up. Then I'm going to come to my frog article and I'm going to select the top part of it right here, the link to it, and I'm going to say Control C on my Chromebook. Then I'm going to wait for EasyBib to load. And sorry guys, EasyBib is known for having way too many advertisements, so I apologize for that in advance. But I have my website. I'm going to click the website button. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to copy and paste, so Control V on my Chromebook, my frog article in, and I will say search. And now we'll wait. And there, it's found my frog article. So I will say cite. And we'll wait. And then we'll say continue. And it's going to ask me for a little bit more information, but I don't have any, so I will go all the way down here to complete citation. And we'll wait. And then here it is. Frogs by Wikipedia. We'll say copy citation. And now that is copied to my dashboard and I can paste it into my slide using Control V on my Chromebook. And I will have my MLA citation, same way I have one down here on the Chronos slide. You're also going to need to cite the book that is behind me. So I already have that in ready to go for you. All you got to do is copy and paste it from this slide. It's down here, this Riordan, Rick, Percy Jackson, and the Olympians, book 1. Go ahead and highlight it and put it into that same slide where you put your MLA quotation, or put it at the end with your works cited. Either way works, but you do need to cite our Percy Jackson book because we're all quoting from it. And yeah, that's how to cite your sources. Okay, extra credit. So if you are in need of extra credit here in Reading 8, this is your chance. So to get up to 10 points of extra credit, you are going to dress up like your Greek god while you present to your class. You do not have to do this. This is extra credit. It will not count against you if you do not want to do this. Greek god costumes are going to receive extra credit points based on effort. So I'll show you kind of what I mean by that. This is my lovely roommate. She decided to do some modeling for us. So what I mean by effort, I would give you about 3 points for like a quick little prop that you made before class. Like for example, she has a cute little lightning bolt that we made out of paper. It's more of like I can tell you did it right before you got here. Thank you for playing. Here's 3 points. 5 points would be like the bed sheet toga route, like somewhere in the middle. So like if you came to school with a bed sheet wrapped around you like a toga and maybe had a cute little prop that represented your Greek god, it's a quick 5 points. Great job. 10 points is for those who went above and beyond. So I'm looking for things like So for example, when we were making these two outfits, here's kind of what we did. We called up my roommate's boyfriend who happened to have a leather duster that she's wearing in this photo. We found a red muscle t-shirt in my closet. I don't know why I owned that, but I do. And then we also found like some leather pants in her closet. And we put together an outfit for Aries, all without buying anything. Uh, then in this other picture, we found a Hawaiian t-shirt in her closet, and then we found a lei in my closet. And we made her Poseidon, all without buying anything. So what I'm really trying to get at is I don't want you to go out and purchase a costume that you are never going to wear again for these 10 extra credit points. It's not what I'm asking for at all. Get creative with it. Find some different random articles of clothing that you could use to represent your Greek god. And you will receive those 10 points, assuming that I can see that effort in your costume. And yeah. And if you have some questions on like a case by case basis of can I wear this? Can I bring that? Let me know. Um, so some things students have been asking me, I'm a little bit hesitant towards, just because we probably shouldn't have like certain items like that in school. Um, but we can kind of work with it on a case by case. When are we going to do class presentations? So presentations are going to start on Friday, March 22nd. I want to bring your attention to something else real fast. So in here, there is something titled Image 0 JPEG. This is a picture of our board. This is the whole schedule for the next 2 weeks. So today we are at the 18th. So I'm giving you your project explanation. We've also cut down our free reading time to 10 minutes unless you're in 5th hour because I already have you for longer. So you guys will be at 15 minutes if you're in 5th hour. But if you are not in 5th hour, we have cut down our free reading time to 10 minutes for the next 2 weeks, just so we can try to squeeze in as much project work time as we possibly can. So the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st are all days to work on your project. So for the next 3 days, you're gonna do 10 minutes of reading and then it's project work time, and that's our game plan. The 22nd is when we're gonna start presentations. So that's this upcoming Friday. I will give you a fair warning. If you decide to go the extra credit route and dress up like your Greek god, there is a very, very, very good chance that you are presenting on Friday the 22nd and you need to be ready to go. Just because I need to see your costume before you leave for the weekend and don't have it anymore. That way I can give you your extra credit points. So if you are planning to dress up, be prepared to go on Friday the 22nd. The 25th is when we will do all of our straggler presentations. So if you didn't present on Friday, you'll present that following Monday. The 26th and the 27th is the movie days. Whether you watch TV or movie was kind of up to your class. You can ask me how that went when you come back. And then on the 28th, we will start an entirely new book and we'll go back to our 15 minutes of free reading time again. So that's kind of the schedule for the next 2 weeks and what we're working with. Okay, and then the last thing I had on this was how much is this project worth? It's worth 50 points, and I want to kind of go over the rubric with you. So the rubric is also in here in Google Classroom. Go to this Greek God Research Project rubric. So this is what I'm grading you on. So I'm just going to read it with you. Title, slide, and summary. Student provides an objective summary over who their Greek god is. Summary includes details that show thorough research. So again, thorough research. Show me that you know quite a bit about your Greek god after doing this research. Myth research and how it affects today. Student can read, comprehend, and summarize high-quality informational texts in order to research and present their Greek god. So, all right, God and Percy Jackson. Student analyzes how modern works of fiction draw upon myths and the impact and meaning of these allusions. Research and citations. Student cites textual evidence that supports an analysis of what the research says, as well as inferences that are drawn from the text. Guys, what I want to do, I want to make a quick note about this. This research and citations is worth up to 10 points. So if you decide, oh, not going to cite my sources in MLA, like it's not worth that much, whatever. You're missing out on really easy points just for citing your sources. So make sure that we're using EasyBib to cite our sources and we're not just putting in links, because you're missing out on some quick, easy points if you don't. Presentation skills. Student does not read directly off of their slides and student has bullet points on each slide. not full sentences. Okay, so this is me kind of being a stickler about this. Um, I got really tired last year as a high school teacher having my freshmen come in and not really knowing how to present. They would write full sentences and have their entire presentation on their slideshow, and then they would just read it to the class. That is not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is more of bullet points. So I'll show you kind of in my example. So when I presented over Kronos at the very beginning of the year, I provided you with this overview, right? Do you see how there are all these different bullet points, but none of this is necessarily what I went up there and said. Your slides are more of a cue to yourself about what you need to say during your presentation rather than what you're actually saying during your presentation. If I'm being honest with you as a teacher, I don't even really care what your slides say. I'm only grading what comes out of your mouth. So, um, have the bullet points to remind yourself what you're going to talk about and then elaborate on each of these bullet points. Why did you put it up there? What is so important about it? I didn't just go up there and say symbol equals sickle, a farming tool used to cut grains. I was like, this symbol is a sickle. A sickle, have you guys ever heard of it? It's kind of like what the Grim Reaper holds, except it's a handheld version of it. It's a farming tool that's used to cut grains. Anyways, the reason this was a symbol was because of this myth. I went into a whole thing about it. That's what I'm looking for. Those make the best presentations, okay? Now, I totally get it. If you are that student where when you come up to the front of the class, you see all your peers staring back at you, your mind goes completely blank. You're like, I don't remember a single thing that I was supposed to present over. This is my best piece of advice to you. Bring some note cards to class and write down what you want to say while you're presenting, okay? Then when you go up there, you are more than welcome to read those note cards to us, but I don't want to see you reading sentences directly off of your slides or you're not going to do very good in this category. Um, this is just so we can get kind of better at presenting before we go on to high school. And then finally, extra credit. If you choose to take me up on it, this is just where I award those extra credit points. And that's pretty much it for the rubric. Right. That was quite a bit of information. Um, if you have any questions as we're going through this process, please feel free to shoot me an email. I'll try to help you as much as I possibly can. We have quite a few work days these upcoming few days during class, so um, feel free to stop me during those, and I'm happy to guide you in the right direction. Good luck, and I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with.